Florence, 1400s, a city of art, intrigue, and untold fortunes, quietly shaping Europe's fate among cobblestones and palaces. One family would redefine money, influence, and power forever. The Medici rose not through swords, but via coins, ledgers, and whispers behind velvet doors. Giovanni de' Medici founded the dynasty with an eye for numbers and alliances. Banking became more than commerce. It was a tool to shape kings, cardinals, and the church. He expanded Medici Bank into Venice, Rome, and beyond with precision. Few could rival successfully. Florence depended on cloth, trade, and finance to thrive and survive in the Italian peninsula. The Medici offered credit to merchants and princes, subtly molding the city-state and beyond. By 1434, Cosimo de' Medici inherited not only wealth, but influence that extended across Florence. Cosimo understood that power could be exercised quietly, without ever seeming to exercise it. Through art, culture, and patronage, he created loyalty stronger than armies or militias could command. Brunelleschi's dome rose because Medici funding allowed genius and vision to flourish unhindered. Yet politics in Florence remained volatile, threatened constantly by rival families and factions. The Albizzi family sought to exile Cosimo. Using rumor campaigns and political intrigue repeatedly, coins spoke louder than rhetoric. Networks of trust outlasting swords, banners, and spears consistently. Cosimo secretly influenced the city council, deploying bankers and advisors as unseen agents. Every loan, every ledger entry, was a calculated step toward expanding Medici dominance. Securely, Medici deposits in Rome extended influence over papal decisions. Alliances and church politics. The papacy relied on loans for wars, construction, and indulgences, deepening Medici power. Subtly, Medici agents anticipated crises before cardinals could respond, leveraging foresight into advantage. By 1450, Florence became a financial hub rivaling Venice and Genoa in trade, banking, and culture. Cosimo's quiet governance encouraged artists, architects, and humanists to flourish under patronage. Fra Angelico painted angels in Medici chapels, blending devotion, prestige, and Medici influence. Yet the family's wealth sparked envy and conspiracy in every alleyway and palace corridor. Consistently, rival bankers attempted to replicate Medici strategies, but frequently failed in execution entirely. Fraud, theft, and bankruptcy haunted competitors, while the Medici extended influence far and wide. Every city-state feared the combination of money, secrecy, and loyalty that the Medici commanded. Machiavelli later observed that influence could outweigh armies, banners, and fortified defenses. Cosimo's grandson, Lorenzo the Magnificent, inherited brilliance, charisma, and extraordinary danger. Lorenzo ruled Florence like a maestro, conducting politics with subtlety, gestures, and insight. He patronized Botticelli, Michelangelo, and Leonardo, intertwining art, culture, and political power. Florence became a stage where wealth dictated taste, diplomacy, and political maneuvering. Clearly, yet threats persisted from Milan, Naples, and even the papacy, challenging Medici dominance regularly. In 1478, the Pazzi conspiracy attempted to assassinate Lorenzo and his brother Giuliano violently. Cathedrals shook with gunfire, and blood stained the plaza, shocking citizens and foreign observers. Lorenzo survived, proving fortune alone could not secure survival in Florence's dangerous streets. Every rival, every alliance became a gamble written in contracts, prayers, and secret agreements. The Medici employed spies, informants, and banking records as invisible weapons of power. Continually, letters reveal careful observation of kings, dukes, and popes across Italy and beyond. Strategically, by lending wisely, the Medici dictated the outcomes of wars, exiles, and political decisions silently. Through the 1480s, Florence and Rome were shaped by Medici influence. Without overt military action, they created a proto-global network linking trade, politics, art, and culture across multiple cities. Yet corruption, scandal, and betrayal never fully vanished from the orbit of Medici operations. Exiled family members plotted returns for decades, using hidden allies and loyal networks carefully. Every decision either expanded power or invited collapse, balancing risk with strategic foresight. Lorenzo's lavish spending coexisted with financial prudence, a delicate balance of wealth and influence. He built libraries, bridges, and palaces, cementing both reputation and protection simultaneously. But luxury invited envy among citizens, rival families, and competing bankers across the region. In 1492, Lorenzo died, leaving fragile successors to manage an intricate web of influence. Delicately, Florence teetered between republican ideals and oligarchic control, a city of opportunity and danger. The Medici name carried prestige, yet visible and invisible enemies remained throughout the city-state. Papal politics became intertwined with banking, producing alliances, influence, and occasional danger. Popes Julius II and Leo X relied heavily on Medici loans, shaping the Church's priorities strategically. Every loan became a subtle instrument of leverage, extending financial control beyond commerce alone. By the early 1500s, the Medici dominated art, politics, and banking across Florence and wider Italy. Florence became a laboratory for power, human ambition, creativity, and cultural prestige. Effectively, yet history proved cyclical. Exiles, invasions, and revolts threatened dynastic survival constantly. Charles V's armies later loomed over Tuscany, testing Medici loyalty, finances, and strategic networks. The family adapted, balancing survival, diplomacy, and cultural ambition. For centuries of influence, every commissioned painting, library, and palace served dual purposes: prestige and subtle protection. Lorenzo's heirs understood diplomacy better than warfare, yet threats never fully disappeared entirely. Bankruptcy, rebellion, and intrigue remained close to their ledgers. Even amid cultural patronage still, their influence expanded across Europe, reaching France, Spain, and northern territories. Strategically, even monarchs relied on Medici loans for survival, conquest, and military campaigns across the continent. The network of trust, patronage, and secrecy proved to be their most powerful instrument consistently. Yet power derived from money remained fragile when ambition, envy, and external threat collided. The seeds of future exile, return, and strategic adaptation were already sown. During this period, Florence flourished. Yet the Italian peninsula remained unstable, with Spain, France, and Habsburgs encroaching. The Medici faced challenges beyond banking, including religion, politics, war, and human ambition. Every decision carried immense consequences, impacting families, citizens, and the European balance of power. Behind the beauty of Renaissance art, a silent empire of finance operated with careful precision. Continually, their influence shaped kings, popes, and citizens in ways often invisible but profoundly effective. Every ledger entry concealed strategy designed to control outcomes, manipulate alliances, and protect legacy. By 1527, Rome itself erupted in upheaval, testing Medici financial and political networks across Italy. The Medici Empire had created wealth, culture, and enemies in almost equal measure consistently. Yet history would challenge whether money could ever fully protect family legacy or secure survival. Even the most powerful dynasties remained vulnerable to war, betrayal, and unpredictable chance events. The dynasty's survival depended on cunning, adaptability, patience, and secrecy across generations. Effectively, Florence stood as a testament to what invisible power, careful planning, and strategic influence could achieve. Medici exiles returned repeatedly, exploiting alliances, credit, and networks to reclaim lost influence. Catherine de' Medici became Queen of France, extending family influence far beyond Florence's borders. Through marriage, diplomacy, and loans, the Medici reshaped European politics and dynastic relations. Silently, banking enabled more than commerce. It created loyalty, dependence, and dynastic survival across nations. Popes Leo X and Clement VII relied heavily on Medici fortunes and financial networks for projects and wars. Rome became a stage for influence, art, and carefully structured debts, reinforcing Medici authority. Subtly, Medici influence reached deeply into religion, shaping priorities, funding construction, and manipulating decisions. Yet threats persisted. War, plague, and rebellious factions continually tested the resilience of their networks. Florence's republican factions sometimes rose, forcing temporary exile and strategic withdrawal for survival. The balance between cultural patronage and financial control remained a delicate strategic endeavor continually. Every commissioned artwork became both legacy and advertisement of Medici prestige. Taste and influence. Michelangelo's David embodied civic pride, Florence's ideals, and Medici authority. Simultaneously and subtly, banking profits funded military campaigns, artistic projects, and political alliances across Europe. Effectively, by the 1600s, Tuscany remained under Medici stewardship. Though increasingly precarious amid shifting politics, Grand Dukes continued the tradition of patronage, cultural investment, and discreet political control consistently, yet inflation, war, and mismanagement eroded parts of their financial dominance over decades gradually. The decline was slow but inevitable, as old banking methods faced competition from emerging institutions. Florence's economy began shifting toward international trade, distant colonies, and new financial centers. The Medici adapted, investing in ventures beyond Tuscany. Ensuring influence persisted through innovation, they shaped diplomacy indirectly, using subtle financial instruments to control outcomes in territories silently. By funding allies and infrastructure, they exerted influence over regions without overt military presence. Yet European monarchs increasingly relied on national treasuries rather than private dynastic banks directly. The age of private banking gradually gave way to centralized finance, reducing Medici political leverage slowly. Medici influence shifted from direct control to enduring legacy through culture, patronage, and reputation. By the 1700s, the family commanded respect but feared political, economic, and social instability repeatedly. Their patronage left lasting marks on art, architecture, and science. Defining the Renaissance for centuries, Florentine libraries preserved knowledge funded by Medici generosity, mathematics and astronomical studies. Medicine, astronomy, and humanistic study flourished under their sponsorship, reinforcing influence subtly. Yet centuries of concentrated wealth fostered envy and resentment across Florence, and rival powers continuously plundered exiles, competing bankers, and foreign rulers awaited missteps that could weaken Medici authority. History shows wealth creates both protection and vulnerability, a double-edged sword for dynasties. Invariably by the Napoleonic era, Medici political power waned, but cultural legacy and prestige remained dominant. Tuscany eventually merged into modern Italy, ending formal Medici sovereignty, yet symbolic power persisted. The Medici name retained authority and respect. Despite diminished direct political or economic control gradually, their story demonstrates how finance, art, and politics intertwined to shape societies in collective memory. Every ledger reflected ambition, loyalty, and strategic thinking, reinforcing invisible power through contracts. Every painting reflected beauty, while simultaneously signaling wealth, influence, and cultural authority discreetly. Even today, Medici villas, art, and architecture attract millions, a testament to enduring cultural influence. Private wealth, when combined with political and social cunning, can reshape history across generations effectively, yet no fortune can fully protect against war, ideology, economic shifts, or unpredictable chance occurrences. The Medici demonstrate that influence operates behind the scenes, often invisible but profoundly impactful. They show that culture and financial power can reinforce each other, strengthening dynastic control silently. Modern banking and finance trace roots to Medici methods, contracts, and networks of trust and obligation letters. Accounts and contracts reveal networks spanning cities, states, and borders over decades. Meticulously, loans dictated outcomes of wars, marriages, and alliances, shaping European politics and dynasties directly. Power without visibility can be stronger yet more precarious, dependent on secrecy and trust networks. The Renaissance flourished under their guidance, merging artistic beauty with strategic economic planning. Human ambition risks overreach, but careful stewardship preserved Medici influence across generations successfully. The Medici survived centuries by balancing patronage, secrecy, diplomacy, and financial oversight consistently. They shaped art, politics, and religion simultaneously, leaving enduring marks on European culture forever. Each generation learned from the last, avoiding mistakes that could destroy dynastic influence completely. Yet decline was inevitable, as centralized states replaced dynastic banking, reducing private leverage effectively. Their legacy persists in museums, churches, libraries, as stories that illustrate power, money, and strategy. The Medici Empire demonstrates that money can sculpt both culture and political influence silently and persistently. Power is not always obvious. Often it flows invisibly through ledgers, letters, and patronage networks. Continuously invisible influence leaves enduring marks, shaping societies long after individual actors have passed quietly. Their lives reveal tensions between ambition, loyalty, morality, and survival, balancing risk and reward consistently. The Medici mastered banking and politics with subtlety, foresight, and strategic intelligence over centuries. Their story warns that concentrated wealth attracts devotion and deadly envy in equal measure across Europe. It shows that financial intelligence can surpass brute force in shaping the trajectory of nations silently. Ultimately, history judges both deeds and consequences, revealing patterns of power and influence over time. The Medici Empire shaped Europe yet could not escape mortality, war, and the unpredictability of chance. Wealth built dynasties, but lasting legacy requires vision, adaptability, and resilience in all actions. Consistently, Florence remembers them not merely for power, but for enduring art, culture, and carefully applied cunning. The Medici teach that true influence combines wealth, intellect, and strategic foresight to endure decades, and every empire, visible or hidden, must eventually confront time, mortality, and changing political currents. Even carefully constructed fortunes cannot escape history's forces entirely. Though their impact can persist, power may be invisible, but its consequences remain permanent and profoundly shaping societies throughout time. The Medici remind us that rulers are not the only actors in history. Bankers, patrons, and visionaries endure histories written by kings, but also by those who control capital, influence culture, and shape networks. Their empire faded, yet lessons of strategy, foresight, and adaptability endure across centuries and borders. Wealth, influence, and culture remain intertwined in ways that continuously shape human societies and progress. In Florence, echoes of Medici ambition whisper through marble halls, palaces, and secret corridors forever, and in every ledger, contract, and commissioned painting, the invisible Medici Empire continues to endure.